The Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975, was not only a political and ideological conflict but also a testing ground for modern military tactics. Between 1965 and 1967, the war escalated significantly, with the United States increasing its troop presence and committing to large-scale operations against the Viet Cong (VC) and North Vietnamese Army (NVA). This period saw an evolution in tactics from both sides. The U.S. relied on conventional warfare, superior firepower, and air mobility, while the VC and NVA perfected guerrilla warfare, ambushes, and political warfare. The clash of these strategies defined the middle years of the conflict and foreshadowed the challenges that would plague U.S. forces in the years to come. U.S. military strategy, 1965 to 1967. Escalation of troop presence. In March 1965, the first U.S. combat troops landed in Da Nang. By 1967, American troop strength in Vietnam exceeded 485,000 soldiers. The U.S. strategy, often called attrition warfare, aimed to destroy enemy forces faster than they could be replaced, secure urban and rural areas to deny the VC control, utilize technological superiority to dominate the battlefield, helicopter warfare and air mobility. The introduction of helicopters transformed U.S. tactics. Air cavalry units allowed rapid insertion and extraction of troops. Medical evacuation, medevac, helicopters reduced fatalities. Helicopters enabled the U.S. to strike in remote jungles and respond quickly to ambushes. However, helicopter tactics also exposed soldiers to anti-aircraft fire and ambushes in dense terrain. Search and destroy missions. The U.S. relied heavily on search and destroy operations. Objective: locate VC or NVA units and destroy them with superior firepower. Often conducted in jungles and rice paddies, where the enemy had home field advantage. Challenges: dense terrain favored guerrilla fighters. Civilian populations complicated distinguishing combatants from non-combatants. Body count metrics used to measure success often overestimated enemy losses. Firepower and bombing campaigns. Artillery: U.S. forces employed heavy artillery to target suspected VC positions. Airstrikes: the B-52 Stratofortress conducted carpet bombing in remote areas. Defoliants: chemicals like Agent Orange were used to remove jungle cover and destroy crops. While powerful, these tactics often alienated the local population and fueled anti-American sentiment. Viet Cong and North Vietnamese tactics. Guerrilla warfare. The VC relied on hit-and-run attacks, ambushes and booby traps. Ambushes targeted U.S. convoys and patrols along narrow jungle paths. Tunnel networks provided shelter, storage, and surprise attack opportunities. Booby traps and mines inflicted casualties and slowed U.S. advances. Guerrilla tactics allowed a smaller, less equipped force to tie down larger U.S. units effectively. Political and psychological warfare. The VC integrated military operations with political propaganda to gain local support. Intimidation and assassinations were used to control rural villages. Tet offensive planning began during this period, emphasizing coordinated attacks to undermine U.S. morale. North Vietnamese Army tactics. NVA forces conducted conventional and semi-conventional operations, especially in border regions. Sappers and special forces infiltrated U.S. and South Vietnamese positions. Supply lines like the Ho Chi Minh Trail ensured continuous reinforcement despite U.S. airstrikes. Key battles and operations, 1965 to 1967. Operation Starlight, August 1965. First major U.S. ground combat operation. Targeted VC base areas near Chu Lai. Showcased helicopter-borne assaults and combined arms operations. Battle of Ia Drang, November 1965. First large-scale engagement between U.S. and NVA forces. Demonstrated effectiveness of air mobility and artillery. Highlighted high casualty rates and the brutal nature of jungle warfare. Operation Cedar Falls, January 1967. Aimed at destroying VC strongholds near Saigon. Extensive use of defoliants and clearances. Limited long-term success due to the enemy's ability to return to cleared areas. Operation Junction City, February, May 1967. Largest U.S. airborne operation of the war. Targeted VC bases in War Zone C. Showed limits of conventional operations against a dispersed and adaptable enemy. Tactical challenges for the U.S. Jungle terrain. Dense forests, rice paddies and mountains favored guerrilla fighters. Enemy adaptability. The VC and NVA quickly adapted to U.S. tactics, using tunnels, ambushes, and night attacks. Civilian considerations. Distinguishing combatants from civilians proved difficult. Heavy-handed operations often drove villagers into VC support. Morale and psychological stress. Harsh conditions, constant ambush threats, and unclear victory objectives eroded morale. Evolution of tactics. By 1967, both sides had adapted. U.S. forces emphasized combined arms, integrating infantry, armor, artillery, and air support. VC/NVA forces perfected mobility, stealth, and infiltration, avoiding decisive pitched battles while maximizing casualties. The clash of these approaches set the stage for the Tet Offensive in 1968, which would dramatically shift public perception of the war. The years 1965 to 1967 were pivotal in the Vietnam War, marking a period of escalation and experimentation in tactics. U.S. forces relied on firepower, mobility, and attrition, while the VC and NVA mastered guerrilla and political warfare. Despite superior technology, the U.S. struggled to achieve decisive results, demonstrating that in asymmetric conflicts, adaptability and local knowledge often trump conventional strength. The lessons of this period highlight the complexity of counterinsurgency, the limitations of conventional armies against guerrilla forces, and the importance of understanding both the terrain and the population in modern warfare.